Welcome, everyone, to the Health Over Everything podcast, the number one podcast in health and fitness. I am Stephen Z.
And I am SoCal Gula. Today, we're going to be talking about mental health. And to start, we want to put out there that we are not mental health experts. We are not therapists or anything like that. But we're just going to kind of talk about our mental health journey and what we kind of know about mental health and what we see, and just talk about it a little bit because it's not talked about enough in society. A lot of people shy away from talking about mental health. It has a big stigma. A lot of people think very negative things when people talk about mental health and stuff like that, or when they open up about it. So we're just going to open up a little bit about it and talk about it today. So, Stephen Z, how is your mental health lately?
Lately, it's been pretty damn good. Can't complain, but yeah, I haven't always been that way. And it wasn't until more recently, once I started kind of focusing more on myself. And I think a lot of it was not focusing on all the bad things or the things that I'm lacking in my life. We all have goals and areas that we want to work on, but I would constantly dwell on I don't have this, I could be doing this better. Why am I not doing this? And I would kind of just freaking get into a vicious cycle of just thinking about all this bad shit all the time. And that did not help with my mental health at all.
So was your mental health bad before? Did you ever have bad mental health? Did you think, in your opinion?
Compared to others, I'm going to say no. But for me, it felt like it was at when I was going through it, I was just in a funk and just felt like I was on repeat and I couldn't figure out it was I was going down the rat wheel and I couldn't figure out a way to step out of it. So I was just in this constant loop of negative thinking and just feeling bad about myself, bad about my situation. And yeah.
Yeah. My mental health is doing pretty good as well lately. I just feel just progressing in my personal development journey has really helped me with my mental health a lot lately. I'm 40 now, and I feel like my mental health is probably the best it's been ever in my life. So, it does take sometimes a long time to get to that optimal level, and I still feel like I need to get even better. But yeah, back in, I say the worst time of my mental health was around, I would say my mid 20s, 26, 27. I was a little bit suicidal. I don't think I would have done it. Some people are, and I know it's a serious subject, but I was just so much into the alcohol and depression because I broke up with my girlfriend or she broke up with me. Just things wasn't going right. I wasn't where I wanted to be in life. I was extremely drinking a lot. And I think, all that just built up and cultivated into bad mental health. I remember one time I was at Angel Stadium and I was talking to my friend on the phone, telling him I want to go home and kill myself. I was just super depressed. I don't even know. It was just a traumatic time. And you get in these moments, but even that's 26, 27 years old. Now I'm 40. So 13 years later, it wasn't always bad, super bad like that. It's slowly gotten better and better over time. You learn how to deal with it, or if you just start getting better, but it really took a lot of just focus on just wanting to get better. And that's what really helped me.
Yeah. For you to kind of overcome it, did you have to, I don't know if your depression, if that's what you want to call it, was from just the breakup or other life things, but did you kind of have to face those issues head on, or how did you go about handling your issues?
Well, I don't think it's just the breakup, because I think a lot of stuff led up to the breakup. It's like a stick. You're bending the stick and you're bending the stick, and then finally it breaks. That's the break was the breakup, but before that I was bending it and bending it and bending it through, my lifestyle choices pretty much. I was drinking a lot, started doing cocaine a little bit. I got DUIs, I always had this image. I think a lot of it is personal image in my head. So when I was younger, before I drank and stuff, when I was in my teens and when I was even before my teens, I had this, image of myself that I was going to be really successful at all these goals. By 20 years old, I'm going to do this. By 21, I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to have a nice car. I'm going to have a girlfriend. I'm going to have a house. I'm going to have all this money in the bank. And then once this was, I get 20 years old, I should have had these goals, but now here I am 26 and an alcoholic. I don't have the money. Like I'm breaking up with my girlfriend. So it's kind of like your identity is getting a little bit crushed. And you're like, am I a failure? Am I a loser? Am I not doing what I'm supposed to do? And I think that kind of, just came in my mentals, like what's going on here. And then once it's happening, it's reality. Now it's reality. You're not at all those spots. So I started getting depressed, started getting actually in deeper into the rabbit hole. And that's how it just hits you, like you say, hits you face forward. Like your problems just hit you. They're there now. Now what do you do? And I didn't know what to do, didn't know how to get out of it. So like my mental kind of depression and anxiety and all these other things were just building up and building up. And then finally in 2016, which actually was about 7 years ago today, is when I finally went to Florida. And my nieces were giving me a super amount of love, and the family. I didn't be around my family for a long time. So that kind of helped with the mental health being deteriorated, is not being around people I loved and family. And then I just decided like, hey, I'm going to make a mental change. My mindset's going to change. And that's what kind of started the rebound and the healing of my mental health, was just that love that I felt from the family and my nieces. And I was like, you know what? Now I have a little bit of meaning. So it's kind of like you need a little bit of meaning in your life. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to change my mentality. I'm not going to be known as this drunk guy that's going to die and like of alcoholism. And, so I just kind of built on that. And then, but yeah, like your question is, hitting face forward was just the reality of the situation.
Nice. Yeah, I actually remember when you went back to Florida, it did seem like you came back like in a different state of mind. Like I think you needed that like connection with your family at that moment.
Yeah. And like let's talk a little bit about signs of depression. Like a lot of your friends, like we were talking about in the beginning of the show, a lot of people don't talk about mental health. There's different kinds of mental health issues out there. There's depression, there's anxiety, there's PTSD. I'm not sure what other ones there are, but, so you could have traumatic experiences when you were young and have mental health problems. Like you're just always thinking about, let's say you were sexually molested or something. You're always thinking that you can't be around certain people or do certain things, or because you might bring back that memory or something. So there's a lot of different kinds of depression, but a lot of people don't talk about it. So what are some, do you think are some signs? Like, have you seen any signs of like friends that you've known or people that you've known that they might have mental health problems?
I feel like a big sign is if you have a friend that kind of goes into isolation, because I've even done that. I feel like you've done that. I know a couple of people that have done that. So it's like when you're not feeling your best and, you feel like something might trigger you, you kind of don't want to be around people. So you keep to yourself, you stay by yourself. Like, even with my fiance, there was times where she would go out and I'm like, I do not want to go out. So like, go out, have fun. Like, don't let me kind of hold you back and be a Debbie Downer. Like, I'm just not feeling it. And I think in the beginning, she didn't even know really that it was like an issue, but it was like I felt like I had some things I needed to deal with. And the only way that I felt like I could deal with it was by being by myself and getting familiar with why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling. And kind of, I was even talking to her about it last night. I'm like, part of the process of healing is you got to know what is triggering you. And then, it's like, well, this is making me feel sad. Well, why is that making you feel sad? Well, because this, that, and the other thing. Well, why does that make you feel sad? And it's like you keep going down, 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 down. And it's a process. Like you don't dig to the bottom on your first goal. It's like I think you deal with as much as you can handle, and then you need to kind of step back and take a break from it. And then you kind of go back and start digging again. And eventually you do get to the bottom, but it's like with everything, it almost seems like it's a process and the change doesn't happen overnight. And sucks when you're going through it, but it's like I feel like it's necessary. You come out like a stronger and better human after you've dealt with it, but it's a bitch during the process.
Yes, it is. Yeah, depression could be one of the most horrible human emotions that we have. All humans have all these different emotions, but that's one that you get stuck in and you can become isolated. I know when I broke up, when me and my ex-girlfriend broke up in 2000 and I think it was 11. I would just come home from work. I would go to work, come home, and just instantly just go in my bed and go to sleep. I didn't do anything else on the weekend. I just slept all the time. I didn't want to, for 3 whole weeks. I was just in my room, didn't talk to anybody, didn't do anything, didn't want to talk to anybody. It was really horrible, but it was just isolation. It's almost to this point where I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to be alive. I don't want to be around anyone. I just wanted to go to sleep, just to, like, that's all I wanted to do. It took me 3 weeks of that. So just to get out and just actually start talking to people again. So if you see some of your friends or family members, isolated, they might be going through something, right? So you might want to reach out and talk to them. And just talking to somebody, like helping them out, is probably not going to fix the whole entire situation, but it definitely will help. But that is one major thing that you could do to help somebody so they don't maybe take that next step in ending their lives or something like that. And especially, like I just heard something with you, if you have children, like children don't, especially like teenagers and stuff, they don't really tell you what they're feeling and stuff. They don't know how to talk to their parents about their emotions a lot of times. But I heard that just eating dinner, there's a lot of people don't eat dinner at the kitchen table anymore. So if you just eat dinner at the kitchen table, you could pick up on a lot of clues on how your kids acting just by like what kind of, emotions and how they're feeding you their emotions and what they're talking about and their communication. So, and that's another thing with children and also other people. Like you could kind of just pick up clues about how they're acting and what they're doing. And might need to figure out, how do I talk to them in order to figure out what's going wrong so I can help them. But as I'm saying, just like if you have a friend and stuff like that, like I tell you sometimes, hey, hit up your nephew or something like that, because or somebody that because you never know who they're going through. Like sometimes you just need somebody to just say, how you doing? I miss you, something like that. So if you haven't talked to somebody in a while and maybe they haven't posted on social media or something for a while, and so you could just reach out to them. And I know sometimes I've been going through like a little bit of mental health problems and depression and stuff like that. And I wouldn't post on social media. Sometimes I would just deactivate my social media entirely. And then there's a couple people that would reach out to me and be like, hey, are you okay? Is everything fine? I noticed that your social media wasn't up there anymore. And, that kind of helped, just be like, okay, someone's thinking about me. Because sometimes you get in these modes where you just think nobody's thinking about me. Nobody cares about me. Or like nobody loves me. And that could actually add to the depression and mental health issues. So just reaching out to somebody could be a big deal to them.
Yeah, I like the fact that you bring that up too, because it's something that's very simple to do, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy or elaborate. Just a simple like, hey, how you doing? Just wanted to check in, see how you're doing, what's new, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. And at least, you might not be able to help solve their problem, but at least they know like someone's thinking about them, and they have at least one person out there for support if they ever need it.
Yeah, exactly. And, sometimes just going out with people too, like you're saying, isolation, like sometimes you got to force yourself out. Depends on how bad your mental health is at the time. But sometimes you're just feeling a little down, like you're not like in complete depression and complete anxiety. You're just feeling a little down and you're just feeling a little bit out of it. And you get stuck in the funk for a while and you might not do anything for a month or two. And like maybe you're concentrating on your business too much or your work or what you're doing. And you're not concentrating on going out. Right. So one time recently we went out to Dave and Buster's. And your fiance told me, he's like, hey, you guys need to get out sometimes just for your mental health. And I was like, I really thought about that. I'm like, you know what? I really do. And it really did feel better just to go out and just hang out and be in public a little bit and just be like, okay, I did it. I'm out here. I'm, making connections. And I think it's just good for the human soul and human psyche to do that every once in a while, or because we are social beings, and going out and talking to somebody, giving somebody a hug is, could really help out. I heard even giving people hugs, just taking a hug, it will really help somebody with their mental health a lot. Maybe they just need more hugs. Like give somebody a hug as well. So getting out there, forcing yourself sometimes to get out there, like, I don't want to go. It's going to be weird. It's going to be awkward. But once you get out there, and after the first few minutes, the 5-10 minutes of, the awkward hellos and stuff and take place, and you start getting into the groove of things, you start feeling good. And then when you're done, you feel good about it. So that could help your mental health definitely a lot right there.
Yeah, that's funny. My fiance, she's the one that's always telling me like, hit up so-and-so, hit up your friend over here, hit up this friend over there. And it's funny. I don't know if it's a guy thing, but it's like me and my cousins, like we were very close, but we don't call each other all the time. It's like same thing with my nephew. Same thing Well, you're the only friend that I actually call a lot, and we actually have a lot of conversations. But a lot of my other friends, like, they're still good friends, but it's like a guy thing. We just, I don't know if it's a guy thing or if it's just a me thing, but I kind of feel like guys have a problem with reaching out, like, hey, how you doing? Just wanted
Yeah.
to say hello. And so it's like it's kind of good that I have my fiance because she reminds me like hit up your nephew, see how he's doing, or hit up your cousin, see they just had a kid, see how the pregnancy went, see how they're doing with the parent life and all that. And I'm like, hey, you know what? That's a good idea. I'm going to do that. I'm going to call and reach out. So I think it's good having those connections with other people because it could help. Like especially if you're in isolation and you're just trapped with your own thoughts, it helps to kind of take a break from that and like focus on other people, even if it's just for a night to take all the thinking off of yourself for a little bit.
Yep. And also too, like you're saying that we talk a lot, but like you got to look at routines too. Like, so if you just stop talking to me, like, and I haven't heard from you in a week, like that's kind of long for us, a week. But if like you didn't
Yeah.
text me for a while, because if we're not talking, we're usually texting. If you didn't text me or something, and I was texting you and you just didn't text back, that would be kind of awkward. And I'd be like, okay, what's going on? Like, is there something
Yeah.
wrong with him? So then I would like reach out and be like, hey, like, what's going on? Are you okay? Like, so you got to look for little subtle clues like that too that people do. And sometimes just like, oh, I just need some time by myself, and that's fine because some people like I say, you need to like you don't need to, but you should go out sometimes and get that mental health going and get in the community and stuff like that. But sometimes people need some time by themselves too, as well. So sometimes it's too much. Everything is too much for them. There's too much going on. There's too many people hitting them up. Sometimes like, yeah, I just need a few days, just to be by myself and gather my thoughts and think and relax and stuff like that, and just recharge the batteries. And sometimes you need that as well. So like, you could hit somebody if you haven't heard from them in a couple of days. You hit them up, hey, are you okay? Like, yeah, I'm just recharging my batteries. So okay, that's fine. And then you hit them up and they hit them up in another couple of days, and they still don't. Then there might be something wrong, But everyone needs a little recharge here and there too. But just kind of look for subtle clues and stuff like that of how your friends and loved ones are doing, because sometimes like even like something like I know one of my family members. They'll post on Facebook or whatever here and there, and then sometimes they won't. So I'm like, oh, they must be going through something because they haven't posted in like a month or something. And then you'll see them post again, and I'm like, okay, so they must have went through it, and I didn't hit them up or something like that, and I feel bad. I'm like, oh man, what? It's like, could I have done something to help them out? Well, like, what if something bad happened and I didn't hit them up? I would have felt kind of guilty. So it's kind of like lots of subtle clues that you could get from people of what's happening with their mental health. And if you love somebody, somebody, what's kind of like what their routine is and and how they're doing.
Yeah, I think another thing too, it's you can't be too pushy with other people too. It's kind of you need to know or let them know that you're there, but don't be calling them every 6 hours. Hey, just want to check in again. It's like then that could be annoying. Like, why is this person like? I just want my alone time right now. And this person keeps hitting me up all the time.
Yeah,
humans are funny. Like sometimes we need our alone time. Sometimes we need to be social. So I guess you kind of have to read between the lines to know what that person is kind of needing in that moment.
Yes. Yep, that's true. And then now we'll switch over to like there's a lot of mental health issues that need, these are just kind of simple things. Like we went through a little bit of down times and stuff like that. We talked about what we went through. But other people are going, like there's some people that are going through some really traumatic experiences. Some people went to war. We know a guy that went to war one time, and then we went to a Dodger game. There was the fireworks going off. He couldn't handle that. Like I worked with somebody that went to Iraq 3 times, and someone at the job site threw an ice bomb, like dry ice, put it in a bottle. It blew up, and he almost went off on that guy, like went back into like military mode. And then there's people that went through abuse as a child or whatever. And there's people that are just went through so many things. Maybe they're going through a divorce or a breakup, and they're just like super depressed and stuff like that. And then some people might be going through other things, right? So there's some ways to get through this, like besides us, like podcasts and talking about it. You might need to go get some professional help, right? You might need to go to therapy, which it costs money for therapy, but like anything else, mental health is part of your overall health, and it might be worth it to keep your health over everything. You might have to go do that, and there's a lot of online sources now too for therapy. You could go online and get therapy. So you could Google it, and there's some that you could just talk to on via Zoom. You don't have to go in, but therapy is something that people should do. And there used to be a bad stigma on therapy. Like when I was a younger kid, my dad would tell me sometimes, you need to go to therapy, and they were thinking about taking me. And like, I was, there's a huge stigma, like, you're crazy, you're insane. Like, what is wrong with you? There's something wrong with you if you go to therapy. But is there
Yeah.
really something wrong with you? No, you're just a human. You're feeling emotions. There's things that happen to you. You need to heal, and you might need to talk to a professional. So there needs to be an open dialogue to for people to be like, hey, you need to go to therapy, and not be like, oh, you need to go because you're crazy. It's like, oh, have you ever tried
Yeah.
therapy? Have you ever tried this? Like, you should try this out because it could be really helpful. Or I know somebody that went to therapy and it was really helpful for them, and you could get those same results. So I think we should be able to talk about therapy more, and also people should really look at that option to get professional help to help them with their therapist for their mental health issues, because we're not experts. We're just talking about it, but there are experts out there that can help you with a bunch of your mental issues that you have.
Yeah. And I think one of the big issues that we have with the stigma is that if you want to talk about, like, if you feel like you're going through a mental problem, it almost makes you feel vulnerable to explain that to somebody else. So I think that's a reason why there's a stigma around is because we don't want to be vulnerable and kind of risk ourselves getting hurt by telling someone our like deeper issues and our things that are going on in our mind, because we don't want to seem weak. And that makes sense that would be, a big reason why we keep it in, like, oh, I don't want Aaron to think I'm a little sissy.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just speaking like a guy too. I think that's another thing, being a man. It's like you're always told to, like, oh, like, suck it up, buttercup, and don't talk about your feelings. Why are you crying? Are you a baby? So maybe for men too, it might be a little bit more psychological, because we're kind of grown up. You hear these things kind of throughout your life. And if you feel weak, you're like, no, I'm not even supposed to feel like this. Like, I'm a man. Like, what's my problem? Like, I'm supposed to be able to hold down the fort. Like,
yeah. Yeah. And like a lot of people can break down too. So a lot of people don't want to talk about it to regular people, like friends and family. And that's why they should go to a therapist, because the therapist is a safe place, and you want a safe place to talk about something that you could so vulnerable and such fragile, because some people could completely break down when talking about it. If you went and talked to your mom or your dad or brother or friend or something, and they say the wrong things, it could destroy you. It could like break you down to even worse, where your mental health actually gets worse. And you do want to take that suicidal tact, and so they might say the wrong thing because they don't know, they don't know what you're feeling. They don't know how to deal with it. Right. Or they're tough themselves. They might say something like, oh, get over it. I'm like, oh, like, who cares? Or like,
yeah,
you're weak, like, or something like that, and this could break somebody down, and where they just feel even worse. And then now they don't want to talk to anybody about it. Now they're trying to heal themselves through what? Like, they don't even know what. They just might go in seclusion or isolation and just start crying, or just not want to be around anybody, or even worse, do something bad to themselves. So it is a very vulnerable thing, and it's very hard to talk about it, especially like we'll say bullies. There's a lot of bullies out there. A lot of people want to like make themselves feel good. They themselves don't have their mental health on point, so they will bully you. And if you talk about your mental health, if they see a little bit of weakness in you, like, oh, this guy's weak, like, because of his mental health, and you can just tell, so I'll bully them because I feel something bad inside. There's a lot of bullies, and there's a lot of people struggling with things internally in themselves. And sometimes they bully other people to make themselves feel better, to make themselves feel more powerful and more strong, because, they consider a mental health thing as a weakness, and like they could tell they prey on the weak. And, just that's multiple things that why people don't go out there. And you should probably go to therapy or look for that option, because it's more of a safe space that you can open up and know that you're free of judgment and free of being bullied and stuff like that.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the more negative person when I was thinking about that. Going to talk to someone about your mental health because you feel vulnerable. I was just thinking, like, oh, you're going to go to talk to someone, they're going to totally understand where you're coming from. I didn't think, I'm just thinking some like old school hard ass dad, like, why are you being a little baby for? Like,
Yep.
and then you're like, oh man, why? Then you feel like something's wrong with you. Like, oh, I went to, try to open up to my dad, and he's telling me that I shouldn't have this problem. So then you start to question yourself, like, is my feelings even valid? And now you feel that, I shouldn't even be feeling this way. That's a good point.
Yep. Yeah. And like, like the last generations, like my dad's generation was a little bit harder. And the generation before
Yeah.
that was even harder on them. So like, you pass down these traits because, like 2 generations ago, it was World War II, you got the Depression. So they battled through things. There was no real talk about um, mental health at all. Like you were either
Yeah.
you tough it out and you get through it, or you're a little bitch. Like it was pretty much it. And then people raise their kids like that, and some people even spank their kids or beat their kids because they felt them as weak, or they may have been a little feminine boy or something like that. And now their mental health is worse. A lot of people say, "Oh, this new generation's weak" and all this stuff. They're little bitches and stuff like that. But they maybe just need more understanding. And I think like with the internet and with social media, more people are talking about it. And a lot of people that grew up in those past generations of are the ones that don't like the new things that are going on, but they're also learning as well. They're like, oh, everyone's offended by everything. Well, that's because they weren't allowed to be offended or be emotional at all. But now there's more talk about it. There's more groups about it. Everyone's talking about mental health. Everyone's talking about emotions and feelings and stuff like that. And that was never talked about before. So it's just more of an understanding now that you can get into different groups. Back in the day, you didn't have social media or anything like that. You were just stuck in that household. If you had a different thought of life, if like a lot of parents don't think that their kid is going to be a little different than them. They just think they're going to be like a little me, and that's not how it is, especially with society. So you were just stuck in that household, and that's all you knew was the people in that household. So you couldn't reach out to anybody. But now there's so many different people. You could go on TikTok and meet other people that are like you. And then now you can relate to them and talk about them. And then these other people are seeing that and they don't like it. But is they also learning from it too. So hopefully in a few generations, this wouldn't be a stigma. It wouldn't be a stigma to talk about your mental health and like say, hey, I went to therapy, and be like, oh, that's awesome. Congratulations. That's cool. Like you're getting better, you're healing. Not like, oh, you're a little bitch, you're weak. Like, why do you know that? Are you crazy? No, there should be more positive talk around it, because somebody's trying to get better and better themselves. And just like how we're trying to do with our health, with our eating habits and our physique and all that stuff, they're trying to do the same thing. They're going to the gym for their mind, so. And that should be celebrated.
Yeah. I think one of the benefits too of actually talking to a therapist is that a therapist is going to get you to explore your own mind, where if you were alone by yourself, you may not necessarily want to do that. You might hit some pain points that you're like, ooh, I don't want to think about that. Let's go clean the kitchen, or let's go do something else. But when you're talking with the therapist, they might force you to kind of like, well, why are you feeling like that? And then elaborate on that, and they'll just kind of make you dig deeper and think about your own self a little bit more than you would do normally on your own. I kind of think that's where, I'm not condoning psychedelics or anything like that, but I do think, psychedelics are making big headway in a mental health field. So I think even from my personal experience with it, like, it just gets you to see yourself from a different perspective and to kind of think about those deeper issues and kind of figure yourself out a little bit. I don't know if we should jump into a psychedelic.
Yeah, because like I don't want anyone to think that if you have mental health problems, like getting help and stuff could mean multiple things. Like a lot of people and therapists might give you pills. I think there's multiple different prescription pills out there. I can't think of the names right now, but I know there are a lot of pharmaceuticals out there that can help people with their, like Ritalin could be one, like, oh, you have ADD or whatever, you need this. That's kind of like a mental disorder, I think. But I wouldn't want to get reliant on anything. Like, like you saying psychedelics, like you could try it a few times, but just don't get reliant on it. That doesn't mean sit there and do psychedelics every day. Like a lot of people like want to, because I'm just thinking like most people get on alcohol and weed and stuff like that to help them with their mental health. Like, oh, my mental health is a lot better when I'm drunk because I feel better, but it's just masking the issue. Like we talked about in our last podcast about sobriety, you're just masking the issue with alcohol and weed. There has to be other ways to think to help your mental health. And like, maybe it could be a temporary escape for some, and it might help you a little bit, but you still want to try to work on the issues of what's actually creating the mental health issues. Like, is it the alcohol and weed? Is it the pharmaceuticals? Is it like do you need to accept how your upbringing was. Is it someone that's bullying you? Is it because you love somebody? Is it because you feel insignificant in your own mind? Do you feel like you're fat or ugly and like you just can't live life? Do you feel like nobody loves you? There could be lots of different um root causes that you could work on. Like even if you think like, oh, I'm just ugly. Well, you can go get to the gym and get a great physique. You can't fix your face. Maybe you can with plastic surgery or something like that. Maybe that will even help, but you could go get a great physique and that could help you and stuff like that. So, but psychedelics, I don't know much about it. You have done them and you always said that, it does open your mind. I've heard a lot of people say it. So that could be something, that could be a thing. You might go take an ayahuasca trip out with a group of a community and just do it one time. And maybe that'll open up your, maybe that could help you. My thing is just don't get addicted to a new substance, but trying something out might help, like something like that could possibly help.
Yeah, and I think they're starting to open up more like clinics and it's starting to be more of a medical thing. So if you were going to do it, I'm not going to say to go do it by yourself, if that's the way I did it, but maybe try to go find a clinic or a doctor somewhere that has it as a therapy where you're with a professional, you're in a safe environment, you have people looking after you so you don't have to worry about, yourself doing anything crazy. But personally, like I don't think psychedelics, especially psilocybin, it's not addictive, especially if you have a bad experience. Like you're not gonna want to do it again.
Yeah.
And one of the things with it, it's they always say to go into it with the right set and setting. So the set is like your mindset. You want to make sure you're in a good headspace because it will amplify whatever mind frame that you're in. So if you have these issues that you're not dealing with, it will magnify those. And I think that's, when I was younger, that's what it did to me. Like I had these issues that I didn't want to think about. And it was just making me focus on them to the point where I was like, I don't like this anymore. Like, I don't want to, I felt so bad that I was like, fine, I'll think about it. And then as soon as I did, it was like this weight was lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah.
And for me, that was like, I learned how to let go in that moment. And I think a lot of our mental issues come with not being able to let go of certain emotions or certain things that's happened to us in the past. We cling on to them and bring them to the present moment with us. And it just makes us feel a certain way. So until you can resolve that issue, it's always going to be a problem. It's always going to kind of pop its head up and say, hey, you haven't dealt with me yet. So I'm here again.
Yeah.
Welcome to your mental health. So you got to deal with those moments sooner or later, because if you don't, they're never going to go away.
Yeah. And then, like there's also important to say that there are different things in mental health. Like your dad passed away, like, did you have a mental health problem because of that? Or were you just sad? Like there's things that happen in life that just make you down and sad. Because we're humans, we go through all different emotions. So there's levels to this shit, as people say. You might just be sad for a little bit, and you might, sometimes it might take a couple of years to get over a sadness of a loss, a loved one or something like that. But, so there's different kinds of mental health, or they're just actual mental health, like I would say, syndromes or diseases, which like you actually have, and you might need a medication from it. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert. Is that something you might have to go talk to your doctor about? But you just have to be aware of becoming addicted to it. And you also have to be open to the options. Is there other ways to fix this? Is there other ways? Could a better diet fix it? Could exercising, could being more social fix it? But there might be because, there are people that are kind of insane, that and go to insane asylums. So what is wrong with their mental health? Is there some sort of gene, or is there something like wrong with their synapses in their brain, or do they need like a medication or something to fix that? I don't know. I'm not sure. So you have to explore different things. You have to explore therapy. You have to explore going to the doctors. And some of the times it's just sadness, like sometimes you're just sad. Like sometimes if it's just a feeling like that, emotion, feelings are fleeting. You're not always sad. You're not always happy. You're not always angry. So sometimes you just have to let it pass, and you might have to do some things like they say, take a step back, relax, recharge, or go out with somebody and have a good time, or maybe even, indulge in some alcohol or something like that. Even though I don't really take that path, it should be taken, but it might help you to get past that little moment. So it's not like you have a long-term mental health problem. So there's different things you got to look at when you're looking at your own self, but self-reflection and kind of understanding, it starts with that.
Yeah, I think I like what you said about, well, I don't like it, but losing a loved one is one of those life events that usually it happens suddenly. And when it does happen, it like
Yeah.
turns your world all upside down. So,
Mhm.
like you said, it could take years to deal with that. And, there's no time frame like, all right, your parent died, you got 6 months to get through with this, and then you
Yes.
should be good. If not,
Yeah.
you're not dealing with it right, you're doing this wrong. Like, no, like for me, it probably took 20 years to deal with my dad passing. And for me personally, I felt like is because I was ignoring those feelings that I had wrapped around that event in my life. It was such like a traumatic event for me that I almost just try to suppress it all these years and just never really dealt with it. So there's no time frame on how long it should take you to heal. Like
Yeah.
heal as long as it takes you, but do the work, if even if it's a little bit every day or a little bit once a month, but make sure you're focusing on it to some degree so you can move past it. Because yeah, those events, like, and there's of course there's people who have gone through things like that and they could probably give you advice, but no one is you. So it kind of boils down to you, like, look for some advice maybe, but explore your own mind and explore yourself to figure out what's going to help you get
Yeah.
past it. We're all different. Like, I'm sure when your dad passed, you were older, so maybe that had a different play or a different way that you dealt with it.
No.
But I felt like you went about it the right way. When your dad passed, you're like, you know what? I am not going to drink anymore. I'm not going to smoke, because you wanted a clear state of mind. And that's one of the things, like when you told me you're doing that, I'm like, hell yeah, like you're doing it right. You're like, you're not going to drown yourself in alcohol and be sad and just kind of ignore the problem. Like you took your time to be with yourself and to kind of process it a little bit.
Yeah. And I was more mature, like you're saying. At that time I was 36, and I was kind of already on the path, but like a couple months before that I wanted to stop drinking and stuff. So it's like, so it really helped. Like, and then the way he passed, I knew it was from a heart attack. So it's like, okay, well, he died because of his health. I need to get my health in order. So kind of all that accumulated in my mind, but it was sad. But I'm kind of over it in a sense. Like people say, oh, how you get over it? It's like, oh, I just accepted it. Like my dad was kind of a jokester, and he was a realist too. So he would just be like, hey, like this shit happens, kind of thing. So it's kind of like how I was raised with him. And that's like, we're kind of like similar in that way. But, I do miss him, especially on days that, like his birthday or something like that. He would have just been 70 in October. So,
Mm-hmm.
but, I don't think I really got into too much of a depression. It was more just sad because I think I was already working on myself. But we'll talk a little bit about how we, like a lot of people are going through a lot of tough times. A lot of people are really severely mentally messed up in their own heads. But like you said, you were a little bit down and a little bit mental health back in the day. I was pretty bad in my 20s, my late 20s. I felt like I was pretty bad in my mental health. But
Mm-hmm.
how do we get better? How do we get better? And I think like the way I did it was like through personal development. This is a tool like I think is really powerful to help with mental health. And it's because you need something that you want to fulfill your life with. Like if you're thinking about your depression all the time and your anxiety and your lack of things, like you're going to be thinking about that. So it's like energy goes where focus flows. So where are you focusing on? And that's what like I kind of like, and it takes a long time to rewire your brain. It takes a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like it takes a very long time to rewire your habits and your brain and everything like that. But personal development to me was like the number one thing that really helped me. And isn't like, oh, I'm just going to do better for myself for one day. I'm just great now. It took a long time. I started in 2016. It's 7 years later. And I finally became like a few months ago, finally got to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm like in the best moment of my life now. Like I'm actually feeling better in my 40s than my 30s and my 20s. I'm like, I was telling you recently, like, I think this is probably going to be the best decade of my life. Like people think they want to go back to their 20s or something like that. I would like the body of my 20s, like you were saying, but I'm thinking I'm in the best moment mentally and where I am. I'm armed with experience, and that's a lot of things, but personal development really helped me. I started reading books. I started about personal development. I started listening to people, different teachers, like multiple different teachers, like, started watching YouTube videos and then I started working on myself. Like at first I started to stop drinking, and then I stopped smoking, but it took time because I kept going back to it. I stopped for a while, and it was a struggle. And then so your still mental health wasn't always there for me, because I'm like, man, I'm losing. I lost again. I'm back to drinking again. I'm back to smoking again. Then I get back off of it and I start feeling better. And then what really turned it was my diet. So I think an exercise, so I eventually stopped smoking. I stopped drinking, but I still wasn't there mentally because my body didn't feel good. I'm like, why isn't my body feeling good? I'm like, I'm not drinking. I'm not smoking. And I've realized that a lot of how your body feels gets masked by the drinking and smoking. So once you stop drinking and smoking, you feel good and you still feel bad. And you're like, why? I thought you're thinking it's the hangovers and the smoking is making me feel bad. Well, once I got rid of that, it kind of got my mind clear, my mental's clear to think of like, hey, my body's still feeling bad. And then that's when I knew I needed to switch up my diet as well, because that's a big, important part. And then start going to exercising. And now that I did that, I feel 10 times better. My body feels better. And with your body feeling better, your brain feels better. And then my mental health started getting a lot better, because now your mind isn't thinking about, why is my body feeling bad? Why is my body feeling bad? Your body's feeling good. So now your mind's feeling good. And that was all. That process took a long time, 7 years to accumulate till now. But it all started with the mindset shift of, I'm going to change my life and I'm going to fix this. And I'm going to start with personal development. And that really saved my life, really, pretty much.
Yeah, I think personal development is going to be a big one. I kind of like what you said too. It took you 7 years. Like, someone could see you now and just be thinking like, oh, this guy, like, I would love to be this guy right now, but they don't know all the turmoil and the bullshit that you had to go through to get to the point that you're at. It's like, and I think everyone has that journey that they have to go through. You have to go through hell a little bit in order to get to the paradise aspect of it.
And you went through personal development too, right? So how did that help you and your mentals?
Yeah. For me, as far as personal development goes, when I first started, I was doing a little trick where I would try to, and this was me trying to I feel like I didn't have control of my mind. Like, I'd have these thoughts and they would get carried away, and I would just be thinking about all this bad shit. Like I said earlier, all this bad shit on a loop and repeat. And I couldn't figure out how to get my mind off of those things, because I felt like it was these outside events that were kind of influencing me. But I realized now that it was just because I didn't have control of my inner work. I was almost like a feather in the wind, just like, oh, I'm getting blown this way. All right, now I'm going this way with this side and this way with this thought. It's a little bit tedious, and honestly, it took a lot of energy and work. But I would just try to stay conscious as much as I could throughout the day, and even like remind myself every so often, like set an alarm every hour. Like every hour, I'd have like a check in, like what's going on right now. Like,
oh, okay.
Oh, like, all right, I'm where I'm at. I'm in my room. There's no one here. It's peaceful. It's quiet. It's like, and not to be thinking about bills, and not to be thinking about I'm overweight, and just to be present with the moment and just try to not really think about anything. Just accept the moment awesome. for what it is, and not get carried away with my thoughts. And that took a lot of time and practice. I can understand why a lot of people wouldn't want to do it, because it's super tedious to be like, just try to bring yourself back to this moment and be like, all right, I'm driving. Everything's good. There's a good song on the radio. It's hot. The sun feels good against my skin. We got a cool little breeze, and just kind of try to soak in the moment instead of like, because for me, I don't know if everyone's like this, but I would just get wrapped up in my brain so much. And I'm like on autopilot. Like, I'm driving, I'm not really paying attention because I'm so in my freaking head about everything that I'm thinking about, that I'm not enjoying the only moment we all have, which is the present moment. And for me, that was like the first big step. And then, like you said, exercise and diet. That was like, I would say that was even better than just doing the mental part by itself.
Yeah,
like that combo together and is like, I don't know. It does wonders. And I think it kind of feeds off of each other. It's like you work out, so your body feels good. Since your body feels good, your mental feels better. So you're able to kind of bring this better version into your workouts, this more disciplined aspect of yourself. And then your body gets better, and then your mind gets better. So it's like you start stacking this health and or like this mental aspect of it and this physical aspect of it. Especially like you probably know when you're working out, you have those thoughts like, oh, like I should stop now. I should stop now. There's a mental aspect to working out that I don't think a lot of people think about. that if you can push yourself during a workout, like it increases your mental because
Yep.
you want to drop the weight, you want to stop, you're feeling the fatigue. It doesn't feel good, but if you could learn how to kind of just accept it and do it anyways, it starts to build your mental, your mind strength as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
you
for
know you can
me,
do it. Like I can do it.
yeah,
That means I can do anything.
yeah, exactly. I was gonna say for me, same thing with you, like working out and eating good has done wonders. I don't know. That should be the drug of choice. Everyone, you just need to go out. No one's holding you back. You don't need to go to a doctor to do it. Just do some push-ups, get out in the sun, run, figure out some sort of
Yes.
exercise that you love
Bring
doing,
that
and
up.
just start eating better. And then you won't have to go to the doctor all the time. Hopefully, depending on where your fitness and your health journey is and your levels are, like just do those two things, and it will do wonders for your life.
Yeah, there's some other things too, like like you just said, get some sun. So like we've been listening to Gary Breckett a little bit, and he says
Yeah.
do some breath work, breathe in deep, like do some meditation, breathe, do some self reflection in the morning. Like you do cold plunges. That after you do a cold plunge, it's hard as hell to get in. But once you get out, your endorphins are up. You feel different for a couple hours.
Yeah.
So that could be something to help your mentals. Yeah, go out there and get some sun. A lot of people are just in their houses all day playing video games. Go out there and get some sun in your eyes first thing in the morning, like the good sunlight. It doesn't have the UV rays as they do in there. Get the sun in your eyes first thing in the morning. A lot of things are like, obviously eat well. Everything you put in your body, like on your skin, in your mouth, in your eyes, in your ears, is going to affect your well-being and how you are, and that will eventually help your mental health. So like I used to listen to a lot of sad, depressing music, and like people say, well, it's a pleasure that I used to always say sad music. It's the pleasure that my sadness brings. So I would be sad, and then I would listen to sad music, and it would make me feel really good about just getting real deep into my emotions, like a dark poet or something. But in the end, you're putting in bad thoughts in your ears, and that goes, where did your ears go? Right to your mind. Like it's right there, So maybe that's an issue there. So like by listening to more positive things, like I like Jim Rohn, I like, like Tony Robbins is one of the old school guys, but there's other people you might know a few. What are some few people you can listen to besides those two, Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins? There's many of them I like, Ty Lopez and stuff like
there's
that.
a lot. Like even like Ed Milet, Les Brown's
Les
good. Eric Thomas is good.
Eric Thomas. So these are some people you can listen to as well, besides listening to the sad, depressing music. And that goes in your head. And then like the food you're putting in your body is obviously, like if you're putting in processed shit, that's going to make your body feel like shit. And think about that. You're putting in shit in your mouth. Your body feels like shit. What do you think your mind's going to do?
Yeah.
So like there's people that actually have real bad mental health problems. But for the majority of people that just feel bad and feel like these things are going to help you dramatically. And maybe even somebody that has a deep mental health problems can help them as well too. But try some of these things. Try the breath work. Try to get sunlight in the morning. Try to maybe take a cold shower, a cold plunge. Go out there and get some exercise. Put good things in your body. Don't listen to bad music. Don't listen to your environment of people that you're around. Like try to move out and try to get move into a new area, way out of that household, out of that community. Go find a community of like-minded people that are like the stuff that we like, like that are good for you. Do some yoga, do some meditation. These are all things you can do that can help your personal development, that intakes into your body, and don't put toxins on your skin, like different things. Like all these things will help you, and then that will help your mental health, because your mind is just feeding off of everything you're putting into your body. So these are some steps you can do. And then also work on your mental health and your personal development, and all that would be part of that. And you'll get better. And by getting better, humans like getting better. When we feel stagnant and we feel sitting in one spot, that's when your mind starts wandering. That's when you start feeling like you're lagging in life, and that never helps your mental health as well. So find something that can make you get better every day, a little by little. And in 7 years from now, you could be feeling great. It could be hopefully sooner, but
hopefully sooner.
You got to keep working on yourself.
Yeah. Another thing that I would add to that list is maybe even, I don't know if you want to call it a detox, but get away from your phone for a little bit.
Yeah,
you like going on hikes, and I enjoy hikes too, but just go out and be with nature for an hour, or even if it's a half hour. Get out a little bit and just disconnect from your phone, especially like if you're a person that Like I know my aunt and uncle, when I lived with them, like they would be watching the news all the time, and it's bad shit that you see on the news.
Yep,
If
that's
you're
a
a
good
type of
point too.
person that if you're scrolling through social media and you're getting drawn to these bad events that are happening around the world, like disconnect from that because that bad shit that's happening on in the world is not happening in your immediate environment. It shouldn't be affecting you at all because in your environment, everything's good. I'm in my house. I'm in my room. Everything's good. I'm talking with my friend Aaron. But if I start thinking, oh my God, are we going to go to war? Oh my God, this person just killed. There's a killing spree over here. It's like, yes, all that stuff is happening. But they say, like, we are living in some of the safest times ever. But we
Yes,
have this,
so
this
true.
interconnectedness. And the news, it's it's clickbait. It's they want to show you all the bad stuff because like I think it's in our nature to worry about like, oh, I need to know about all the bad shit so it doesn't happen to me. But you need to disconnect yourself from that negative news, especially if you're a person that likes to do it all the time. Like it could probably help your mental health tremendously just by not looking at it at all for at least a period of time. Like I would say just cut it
Yep.
out altogether. I don't know about you, but I don't watch the news at all.
I don't watch
My
it.
fiance will tell me shit that's happening. I'm like, I don't, it could be happening. I don't know, but I'm not
Yeah,
gonna let it ruin my day.
I
I'm
learned a
not saying
great
I don't
point
care
by
about things either, but
yeah, and I learned a great point by Ty Lopez. He's like, you don't need to watch news. Stop watching that shit. Like we're tribal. Like humans are tribal. Like care about the people that are closest to you, your friends, your community, and stuff like that. What do you like? People are like, I need to know what's going on. Well, if something is important enough, somebody will tell you about it. There'll be somebody like, hey, World
yeah,
War II is going on, or there's a depression going on, So you'll know it by somebody else once everybody starts telling you. Everything else is insignificant. You're just putting stuff in your mind that you don't need to. You're worrying about things you don't need to. You need to be worrying about your wife, your kids, your mom, your dad, your brothers, your family, your community, your friends. You don't need to be worrying about what's happening in Virginia or in Texas or in and all the way across the world in Syria or something. And then so I got rid of most of the news, and that really helped me out. And when people talked about it to me, did you hear about this? I'm like, nope. I'm like, I don't watch that. So they know like I don't watch it. I'm not going to sit there and talk about it. And with the hiking, you said like that's perfect. I was like, I say like I love to go hike because when I'm in the mountains and these long hikes that take like 7-8 hours, there's no service up there, so I can't be on my phone.
yeah,
So I'm with nature. I usually like hiking with a buddy or two. And then now you're just in a connection with somebody. You're talking to them. You're experiencing a true like connection without no phone. I still get to take pictures and stuff and video record for content, but you can't look at all the stuff. And
yeah,
another point I wanted to talk about is if you are personal developing and you're trying to get your mental health better, which it will, if you do the personal development, you are going to get excited about it. A lot of people get excited about it and they'll post it on their social media. And social media could be a great, but it could also be a toxic war zone, which is just filled with negativity. So don't be arguing with people online that you don't know. That's the number one. But number two, if you get excited about your personal development journey, you're going to post something on social media and there's going to be these people in the beginning that say something. They're going to have a comment and it's going to tick you off. It's going to ruin your mental health. It's going to really affect you. And my suggestion is just block them. Or you could tell them give them a couple warnings. Hey, I'm going to give you one warning. I'm going to give you two. Like if you do that again, I'm going to block you. Like it takes a little bit of strength and a little bit of courage to do this, especially if it's somebody and for a long time. But say like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm getting my mental health in order. If you say something like that again, you're not supporting me. You're not a friend. I am going to block you. And do that. And I blocked people before, but multiple friends. It's harder when you have to go see them after. So like sometimes you might even have to move to a new city or move to a new area, which takes a lot of commitment, a lot of courage to do that as well. But if you do that and they say something, now you don't have to see them the next day. But you got to tell people like, hey, I am no longer accepting this. You can't accept negativity and you have to get strong and do that. And eventually, like through personal development, you get stronger. So it might take you a while. Once you start going to the gym, you start getting muscles, you start feeling good. You might build up that courage to do that. But eventually there's going to be people for sure that are going to give you these negative remarks. And that will tell you who's for you and who's really not for you. And, your mental health is everything. Like that is what, just like everything in your health over everything, your health is everything. So you're going to have to get rid of these people. And by doing good for yourself, it will expose the people that are actually for you and the people that are actually not for you. And I know that you were always for me, and here we are still talking. And there's a lot of people that ain't for me. And I know that they might say they are, we're friends, but like your actions and your responses to what I'm doing shows me that you're not. So fuck you, like that's what I say.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing about social media you really have to worry about. And also just don't go argue with people online. You're just like, if you're arguing with people, somebody that you don't know, and they say something, just let it go or just block them, like you just let it go or mute them or something like that. Because at the end, that's just negativity more that's going into your mind, and it's not going to be good for your mental health.
Yeah. My cousin always used to tell me, what is it? Arguing with an idiot only proves that there's two. Like, don't waste your time trying to argue with an imbecile or, somebody that's just going to be negative. You're not going to change their perspective, and it's probably only going to make you feel more angry. So just let it go. Don't even get yourself involved with it.
And like, if you were arguing with an idiot and you were like, I'm arguing with some idiot, I'm like, well, you're just a bigger idiot, because now you know that the guy's an idiot and you're still arguing with him. I mean, you're a bigger idiot than him. And that's what I kind of feel. But, sometimes if you're just doing it for entertainment, like, I just need a little laugh here and there, that's okay. Like, as long as it's not affecting your mental health, but don't do it all the time. Because sometimes you're just bored and you're just like, you know what, I'm going to just argue with this guy for fun. Like just, a little joke or whatever. But that should be like 1% of the time, if anything.
Yeah, don't let those people get under your skin, because it's Aaron over there just trying to have a good time, and you're over here getting all worked up.
Exactly.
It's funny. I wanted to add too that when you're talking about removing these toxic people from your life, another toxic or another hard person to get rid of is a family member. It could be somebody that you live with, or just somebody in your family that you have to see, and that might be harder to get rid of, but you kind of have to try to set boundaries with that person. And even if, you have to see him at these family events every once in a while, try to avoid them, or, do what you have to do. If that person's not going to respect your boundaries that you set in place, like,
love them from the distance.
Yeah, exactly. There was me and my sister, I love her to death, but there was a point where we were just butting heads all the time. And it wasn't until like I moved out and I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, I think she needed a break from me. I needed a break from her. She's 13 years older than me. So I think a lot of things we just didn't see eye to eye on. Some of the things made a lot of sense too. She would always talk to me like, oh, you have a drinking problem, this, that, and the other thing. But when I was younger, I was like, fuck yeah, I don't have a drinking problem. I was like, I just drink on the weekends, like no big deal. But looking back, her perspective is right in that certain perspective. But at the same time, I was so young and dumb that I couldn't see it. So she would just try to, it was almost like beating me down, and just like, I used to hate hearing it. Like, quit telling me this shit. Like, I do not want to hear it. I do not have a problem. But even, maybe I did.
Yeah, you definitely did.
But
and another thing too is like family members know how to get under your skin more than anybody, because they know everything about you. They know like friends might only know a lot about you, but family members that you grew up with, especially when you're young, they know everything about you and they know exactly how to get under your skin. So sometimes it is better just to move away and like just love them from afar.
Yeah, her being an older sibling too. Like, I used to get freaking, she teased me all the damn time, like lock me in a room and put on scary music. And I was so young that I just didn't think to go up to the TV and turn it off. Like, I'm like, going insane. Like, but I just feel that's just something that happens with siblings. Like, you're going to tease each other. You're going to have fights. So she probably did it out of love, but yeah. I'm still scared of sharks to this day because of her. I'd be trying to take a shower. Oh my God, it's shark. Because I seen that movie Jaws when I was little. So she would always get me with that. Like, oh, there's a shark in the bathtub. We can go running out of the bathroom all naked. Go tell my mom.
Yep.
God damn it, Haley. Quit talking to your brother like that.
Yeah, mental health is crazy, because even something like that could affect you, like.
Still to this day.
Yeah. So
it's funny because even though I'm an adult, swimming in pools, I will still get the thought in my mind there could be a shark in the water. I know there's not. My logical mind knows there's not, but it will still pop in my brain like, is there a shark behind me? All right, I'm good.
And that just shows the fact of like how mental health could really affect other individuals so much, because especially something with trauma when they're younger, like a lot of people just might, just get over it. Like, it's like, dude, that happened like 30 years ago. Like, who cares? But it just goes to show with something like that shark incident with you, things could just always be in the back of your mind and be there. And sometimes you push them away so hard, you forget about them. and you don't even know why you're feeling a certain way mentally. And it could be from something like that. That's why like maybe getting hypnosis or going through the therapy can really open up these things and bring them back out again. And you're like, oh, that is the reason why. And now how do we get over that? And how do we fix it? And that could be
That's why I'm always going to say, you got to get to know yourself. If you don't get to know yourself, like, that doesn't make any sense to me. You got to get to know yourself in order to deal with a lot of these issues. Cause like you said, you might have to go all the way back in your thoughts to a childhood event that you've totally forgot about. And unless you go back and have that journey, like you're going to be totally oblivious to why you are the way that you are.
Man, a lot of things do happen in the first 18 years of your life, like with that last a long time. I think those are the most lasting effect things that happen to people is what happened in their childhood. And I'm not sure the science behind it or why, but it carries with people so long. And so like, I probably still have so many things. I always say like, I forgot the first 18 years of my life. I don't even want to think about it, and like, but what's hiding in there inside my subconscious and in my mind that is the reason why I do some things today. So it's like sometimes when you're doing something like, let's say I was tired yesterday and I was upset, just cranky. Like I'm thinking like, okay, is there something in my past that the reason why I act like this, or like when I treat somebody, when I say a bad comment to somebody and they get affected by it negatively, think like, why did I say that? Is it something in my past that did that? And try to like really think about it and go deep dive into your own mind and your own life and figure out why you did that and what can you do? Because even by figuring like saying something negative to somebody because something that happened in your past, you could think about that. And when you do something negative to them, they get upset and they put that negative energy back on you. So I say it's like an echo. And then now you're feeling mentally bad because they're doing something to you. But why did you do it? Why did they do that? Because you said something negative first. And why did you say something negative first? You got to look back in your past and see why you're like that and try to fix it. So it's kind of like, it goes all the way from like what you call it, back and forth, the kind of thing. Like it could go all the way back to your past and affect you today.
Yeah. At the same time, I'm sure you've heard that quote, misery loves company.
Oh, yeah,
when
definitely.
people are feeling bad, they want you to feel bad with them. So they're not alone. So you cannot let those people win. I will not let people get under my skin as much as I could. I'm pretty good with it. It'd take a lot for somebody to be able to make me mad. And even with my son, like I try to get him to explore his emotions too, like, especially because he's little. I don't expect him to be able to, he's 6 years old, so I don't expect him to be able to fully grasp all his emotions because some of them might be the first time he's ever experiencing them.
Yep.
But I let him feel the way he's feeling and be like, well, why do you feel like that? And I try to offer other avenues. I'm like, well, like even yesterday we went to some family event, some like a Christmas event where they had jumpers and all this stuff. And for a while, he was just crying, like, when are we going to go on the jumper? When are we going to, we're trying to wait for all the kids to get there. So I'm like, you have to wait, Stevie. I'm like, you can either wait and, look at all the other kids. They're playing, they're being happy, or you could just sit here and be miserable, wishing that you were jumping right now. I'm like, it's really up to you. And, that's how I talk to him. Like, you can have fun and play with the other kids, or, just sit here and be sad but sitting here and being sad isn't going to help you. It's not going to make the time pass by faster. You might as well go play. So I don't ever recall my dad speaking to me like that. And I don't think they had awareness like that back in the day too.
Yep.
So I try to instill good habits into my son too, because I don't know necessarily, I can't remember my childhood either. I remember little pieces here and there, but a lot of it, I'm like, yeah. I don't know if I had a traumatic upbringing or something and my mind just blocked it all out.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah. So
yeah, it could be.
So
crazy thing.
That's the great part about talking about it now. And we're talking about this podcast and we're probably going to wrap up here. But yeah, that is the great part about talking about it. In this new era, people are talking about it more because back in the day, like you said, your dad didn't talk to you like that. My dad didn't talk to me like that. It was more just discipline. And nowadays, more parents are talking to their kids like that. And it should be talked about more. Yeah, we should talk about it more and talk about. So I hope everyone sits there and talks about it more, open up more. Find people that are in a safe space that you could talk to about your mental health. And, obviously online, there's a lot of resources, and a lot of people on there. There's influencers and stuff that you could go find. But as a student, you got to go look for the teacher, one that fits you. So just go searching for it and just, keep working on your mental health and keep striving to get better. and, health over everything. We talk about a lot about nutrition and exercise and food and a lot of different things, sobriety, but mental health we haven't talked about recently until now. And this is very important because health over everything is a complete health. And we're doing it all, like mental, physical, spiritual, and everything that goes along with it. So we hope the best for you, and hope to hope this podcast was informative, and hope it gave you some insight into mental health. And is there anything else that you would like to add there, Stephen Z?
I was going to add too that when you're in that vulnerable state and you're looking for someone to talk to, try to find someone that is going to be pretty open-minded and that you trust, someone that you connect with. And if they're not, maybe even kind of make sure you word the question, get like, hey, I want to tell you something very personal, and I'm kind of feeling kind of vulnerable about it. So I kind of take it easy on me. I'm opening up to you, and I'm dealing with some issues right now, and I'd really appreciate your feedback on it. And I think if you come to most people like that, they're going to be open with you and not be like, oh, you're a little bitch. Mm-hmm. Maybe some people still will, but I think if you kind of came at them that way, and they know like, all right, this person's telling me something very sensitive to them, so I'm going to tread lightly and kind of absorb what they're saying and try to give them some real good feedback. Like, I think most people are going to have that response. Maybe you say that to a 19-year-old or someone younger, I could understand where they would be like, oh, you're a little bitch or something like that. But I'm 40. All our friends are 40. So I feel like if you were to ask any one of us open like that, like they're going to give you a positive comment back.
Yeah. And just make sure that you doing it to somebody that will not like go spread that, like you, yes. A lot of people will sit there and listen to you and use it as ammo. Like, you don't want to listen to somebody who's, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm here for you. And I'm here to listen. And then once you tell them, they go and tell their friends, like, look at it. He's fucking, this is wrong with him. He's like this, like a little bit, you got to do it to somebody that you got to tell them, hey, don't tell anybody this. Like this is personal between us. I'm like, that's another thing. Like, that's why a lot of people are vulnerable. They're scared that they're going to go tell someone else, like, so you got to trust this
social
person
media
enough. Yeah, you got to trust somebody enough to know that they're going to keep it in between you. And if they do talk to somebody else about it, somebody else that's going to help you as well. Like, oh, I know this person as a resource might help him as well. Not go tell their circle of friends, like, look at what he just told me. Like, this guy's a little bitch, or something like that. So look for the right resource. Do that,
at least you found out, and you could cut that person out of your life. You don't need to trust them anymore. You don't have to worry about them anymore because you trusted them with something and they burned you. And the positive is you don't have to deal with that person anymore. What's done is done, but just cut them out and move on with yourself.
And that's another important thing too. Like, when you're doing all this stuff and you do find out, a lot of people don't want to get rid of like their close friend because they're like, I've been around them so long and I know a lot about them. But just know there are tons of people out there that you become friends with, and there's other people that relate to you no matter who you are. There's always somebody that's going to relate to you. So when you're doing this stuff and you find somebody else out or you find your friend out that he's really vindictive or against you or doesn't really support you in that way, or tells other people, yes, it might be hard to cut them off, but that's something you're going to have to do because there are other friends out there. Nobody deserves a friend like that. That is not your real true friend.
That's not a friend.
Yeah, you deserve the best for you. And that's what health is all about. Having the right people around you and having people that are actually there for you and love you and support you. And if that person that you think is a friend isn't that person, you have to get rid of them, and just know that there are other people out there that will love you and support you, and you deserve that. Everybody deserves that, and nobody deserves a friend that's going to fucking backstab them or anything like that. So just keep that in mind as well.
Mm-hmm. And I guess a little small thing I add to a lot of the stuff that we are giving advice for, it's simple on paper, but to actually do it is a lot more difficult. So keep that in mind. Some of these things that seem simple may be really challenging when you're actually going through the process, but just stick it out and take it one day at a time. Like, that's all you could do, really. Don't beat yourself up too much about it. And eventually, hopefully you get in a better space. I think you will, as long as you keep trying and you keep showing up for yourself. Like, you're going to get there eventually.
Yes, sir. So we all wish the best for you. And this will end the podcast here. And we're glad for you joining us and listening. And we both wish the best for you. And if you got anything from this, share it with one of your friends. That if somebody is going through something and you really do care about one of your friends, like, send them this podcast. This could really help them. And like and share and subscribe, please. We need more subscribers, especially on
Yeah.
Spotify. So yeah, subscribe and just share this with a friend that really needs it. And we really hope it helped you. And yeah, and that's it. So
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Appreciate you all.
All right, guys. See you in the next one.